It began on a cool spring morning in a small town where the street still held the silence of dawn, and the windows of the hospital glowed faintly like candles in the dark. For many, it was just another ordinary day. But for Clara, it was the day she had waited for 9 long months, the day she would finally meet the life she had carried and nurtured in secret rhythm beneath her heart. Clara was calm, almost serene, though her husband Daniel paced nervously by the door of the maternity ward. He had rehearsed this moment in his head 100 times, holding Clara's hand, hearing the baby's first cry, and seeing the tiny face that would change everything they knew about love. Their preparations had been simple, almost minimalist. They had chosen a single crib, decorated with soft yellow blankets and a mobile of paper stars that Clara had crafted by hand during the late evenings of her pregnancy. They expected one baby, nothing more, nothing less, and had built their future around that certainty. The ultrasound scans had confirmed it. The doctor, a gentle woman with glasses slipping down her nose, had shown them the fuzzy outlines of a single child, nestled comfortably in the womb. Each heartbeat echoed on the monitor like a promise, strong and steady. There had been no surprises, no warnings, no hints that destiny had hidden something extraordinary beneath the surface. Yet destiny often plays tricks that even science cannot foresee. The contractions came like waves, sharp, unstoppable, dragging Clara into the whirlpool of labor. The room filled with hurried footsteps, clipped instructions, and the soft beeping of machines. Daniel, clutching her hand so tightly his knuckles turned white, whispered reassurances in between her gasps of pain. And then, as if tearing through the fabric of expectation, the first cry filled the room. Their baby had arrived. Tears blurred Clara's vision, and relief washed over her. A nurse lifted the tiny bundle and placed it against Clara's chest, where warmth and trembling joy mingled together. The child's skin was soft, his fists clenched like little seeds of strength. They named him Samuel. Exhausted but glowing with love, Clara thought the journey was over. The baby was here, healthy, and their hearts were overflowing. She closed her eyes, ready to sink into rest, when the doctor's voice broke through the haze. "Wait," she said, her tone sharp with surprise. "There's another one." The words cracked open the room like lightning. Daniel blinked, stunned, as nurses moved swiftly, preparing again as if the story had only just begun. Clara, dazed and weak, tried to comprehend what had been said. Another baby? How? The scans had never revealed such a secret. Minutes stretched into eternity as the second child entered the world, smaller than Samuel, but crying with equal ferocity, as if demanding recognition for a presence hidden too long. The air filled with a strange mix of disbelief and awe. Clara's tears flowed anew, her body trembling not just with pain, but with the realization that she was now the mother of twins. A hidden miracle. 2 children when they had only prepared for one. The nurses cleaned and wrapped the second baby, placing her beside her brother. Her name came in a whisper from Clara's lips, Sofia. It felt right, as if the name had always been waiting, unspoken, in the corners of their hearts. But the story did not end there. As the room began to settle, as relief and wonder gave way to exhaustion once again, the doctor's eyes narrowed, her hands moving with caution, her voice dropping to a tone that held both hesitation and shock. "There's another heartbeat." For a moment, silence devoured the room. Even the machines seemed to pause, as if listening to the impossible words. Daniel froze, unable to move or breathe. Clara felt her heart stop and then race with wild fear and anticipation. Another baby. Not 2, but 3. The idea seemed absurd, surreal, as if they had slipped into a dream where the rules of reality had dissolved. Yet the doctor's face, pale but determined, told them this was no fantasy. Somewhere inside Clara, hidden beneath the folds of mystery, A third life had been waiting all along. The delivery was difficult. This third child was not like the others. He was small, frighteningly so, his cries faint as whispers. The room shifted from celebration to urgency. Doctors and nurses surrounded him, their movements swift, their voices tense. Clara, barely conscious, watched through tears as they worked, her soul tethered to that fragile cry that seemed to hang on the edge of silence. When at last the baby was placed before her, she saw him, so delicate, his chest rising and falling with shallow breaths, yet alive, undeniably alive. She reached out with trembling hands, her fingers brushing against the soft skin of his cheek. The world shrank to that single moment, the improbable gift cradled before her. They named him Elias, and with that name, a story was written that would forever challenge what people believed was possible. News spread quickly through the hospital, then through the town, and eventually across borders. Journalists called it the most incredible case of unexpected birth, and headlines shouted phrases like, "When the impossible happens." Doctors gave interviews, explaining with scientific restraint how ultrasounds can sometimes miss hidden multiples, especially when one child is extraordinarily small and positioned in such a way that shadows conceal them. But even the doctors admitted that this case was rare, astonishing beyond measure. For Clara and Daniel, the explanations mattered little. What mattered was the sight of their 3 children, lying side by side in tiny cribs, breathing in unison as if they had always belonged together. The room that had once held a single crib now had to stretch itself into a nursery of miracles. The couple had expected sleepless nights, but never on this scale. Bottles multiplied, diapers piled in towers, and exhaustion sank into their bones like weight. Yet, so did wonder. Every time Clara rocked one child while hearing the other 2 stir, she felt as if life had unfolded its deepest mystery directly into her arms. The town began to call them the Miracle Family. Strangers sent letters, gifts, and prayers. Some whispered that the children carried a purpose, that fate had hidden them until the last possible moment, as if unveiling a secret meant to inspire. Clara and Daniel listened politely, but in their hearts, they knew the truth was simpler and deeper. Life itself had surprised them, and in that surprise, they had discovered the boundless reach of love. There were struggles, of course. Elias, the smallest, required special care. His health was fragile, and nights often blurred into days as Clara held him close, fearing each breath might be his last. Daniel worked harder than ever, not just at his job but at home, changing, feeding, comforting, becoming the anchor when exhaustion threatened to drown them both. And yet, despite the challenges, joy flowed like an undercurrent. Samuel grew strong and curious, Sofia laughed with the brightness of dawn, and Elias, though small, revealed a stubborn will, as if determined to prove that his hidden start was no weakness, but a sign of resilience. Years later, when the children were old enough to understand fragments of their story, Clara would tell them in gentle tones about the day they were born. She would describe the first cries, the shock, the disbelief, and the moment when love expanded beyond anything she had imagined. "You were my impossible," she would whisper, kissing their foreheads, "and the impossible became my truth." And in that truth, the family lived not with fear of the unknown, but with gratitude for the mystery that had chosen them. For in a single day, in a single room, the ordinary world had revealed its most extraordinary secret, that life is never confined to expectations, and love always finds a way to stretch further than we believe it can.